If you are looking for a resource that daily inspires you and ignites your creativity, it's a resource that grows with you and recharges your intellectual battery. If you're looking for something like that, then I think you will enjoy this video. Today, we're going to actually dive into Commonplace Books. In a nutshell, a commonplace book is simply one place where you can collect all of your quotes that you come across and ideas and thoughts. And it is just one central place that houses all of these interesting things for you to revisit and be inspired by. I actually once heard it described as an intellectual scrapbook. When I read that, I was like, oh man, I love that. I love that phrase, the intellectual scrapbook. Now, there are a lot of videos out there, tons of videos on Commonplace Books and how to set it up. But I wanted to join the conversation and hopefully provide a perspective that would help you on your journey with collecting your thoughts and ideas and revisiting them and getting inspired and increasing in creativity. And so I thought, what better way to join the conversation on Commonplace Books than to do it the Greg way, and that is to distill and break down a quote on Commonplace Books, right? This is one of my favorite things to do, and I thought it'd be cool for you to join me in breaking this quote down. And so I'm really excited about this one because this is a quote that has 5 sentences, and inside of this quote I found 3 tips on how to get started with Commonplace Books, and then 3 truths about Commonplace Books that I think you will benefit from. So I was revisiting the book Building a Second Brain, and I forgot about this little excerpt, this passage right here. This is from Robert Darnton, who is a historian and former director at Harvard University Library. And this is, I'm not sure if it's a book or an article, but it's called The Case for Books. And I'm going to read this real quick, and then we're going to unpack it together, okay? So it says, unlike modern readers who follow the flow of a narrative from beginning to end, early Englishmen read in fits and starts and jumped from book to book. They broke texts into fragments and assembled them into new patterns by transcribing them in different sections of their notebooks. Then they reread the copies and rearranged the patterns while adding more excerpts. Reading and writing were therefore inseparable activities. They belonged to a continuous effort to make sense of things, for the world was full of signs. You could read your way through it, and by keeping an account of your readings, you made a book of your own, one stamped with your personality. That last line is amazing. A book of your own stamped with your personality. That, in a nutshell, is a commonplace book, and the benefit of a commonplace book is that it is unique to you. Now, let's get into it. There's a lot to unpack, so we're going to start with 3 tips to get started with Commonplace Books from this quote that I just read. All right, the first one, where he says, let's go back. Englishmen read in fits and starts and jumped from book to book. This explains how they read, right? To do something in fits and starts is to do it intermittently and sporadically. And so they didn't jump from book to book because they couldn't hold their attention, right? Like some of us today, myself included, I can't hold my attention for more than 5 seconds. I don't think it was the reason that I jumped from book to book. I think it was because they were following their curiosity, right? The goal wasn't necessarily to finish a book, but rather to extract the interesting ideas and insights and pull those into their personal intellectual scrapbook, right? And start piecing them together. When I read a book, I try not to finish for the sake of finishing. I'm a slower reader because I like to find those little passages and find the quotes and take the time to put them inside of my Commonplace book, inside of my personal knowledge management system. I want to make sure that I sit with the ideas and thoughts. And part of the process is to, read a book, find an insight, put it inside of my personal knowledge management system. And then maybe I'm on another day, I pick up another book. Actually, every day when I walk, I will usually take a book off my bookshelf behind me here, and it could be anything really. And when I walk with it, I open it up to any page, and I know that the highlights in there are something that's going to spark and ignite me, and it may already be in my personal knowledge management system, but it may not be. So I like to take a book with me when I walk, and I jump from book to book to book because I know that I'm looking for the interesting ideas. So this doesn't mean that you should stop reading books all the way through. Hear me, I'm not saying that. Or forget your note-taking system if whatever you have is working. But if you are struggling to get ideas from books, if you're kind of feeling uninspired, maybe you should try this approach where you're intermittently reading books, like you're jumping from book to book to book to book, and you're just it's not really structured, right? Speaking of books, I do want to give you a free gift for hanging out with me today and breaking this quote down. This is a free guide on how to take book notes. Okay, this is my process for whenever I go through nonfiction books and I want to take those insights and put them into my second brain, or PKM, whatever you want to call it, my Commonplace book, all these different names, right? If you're looking for a system to do that and get those insights into your second brain, then this guide will help you to do that. So by the end of the guide, you'll have a simple system for highlighting your books, a mindful approach for adding content to your Commonplace book or your second brain, a process for creating building blocks of knowledge for the future, and then also a simple tip for making more connections inside of your second brain or your Commonplace book, whatever you want to call it. They're all pretty similar. All right, the link to the guide is in the description below if you want to check that out. Let's move on to the next takeaway, the next tip here that I found. It says they broke text into fragments and assembled them into new patterns by transcribing them in different sections of their notebooks. Here we see, before we saw how they read, right? This is what, in my opinion, this is where we see what they did whenever they read. Now, at first I thought a book is like a puzzle because you can break it into pieces. But the more that I thought about it, I'm like, it broke down because it doesn't align with being able to assemble into new patterns. A puzzle piece is only part of one puzzle normally, right? And it only fits in one spot. So it didn't work, right? So I had to rewind and back up. But a Lego piece can be assembled into a myriad of combinations, right? So my takeaway here when I continue to read this sentence here is that when we read, we need to look for the Lego pieces. We need to have that mindset of I'm looking for the little blocks where I can take this block, put it into my system in multiple places, and I can use it in multiple places, right? So when we read a book, we're looking for the Lego pieces, and we want to write those down, but not just write them and put them in one place. It says that they have multiple places that they put in their notebook. Now, if you have a physical notebook, you can put it in multiple places, but in the digital space where I mostly am, I use tags to do this. I did a whole video on my tagging system. If you want to check that out, I'll link it for you to check it out. But tagging is the way to put a block, a Lego piece in multiple places. So there's that. All right, number 3. Let's see. Then they reread the copies and rearranged the patterns while adding more excerpts. here we see that the purpose of rereading was to rearrange, right? And we also see that they reread what they transcribed. So in other words, they were constantly in their commonplace book. So we arranged in the previous tip, right? Where we learned about what they did whenever they first read the book. But now we're seeing that in this step, we are rearranging. And not only that, we're adding more thoughts and ideas. So when you come across an idea in a book and you place it into your commonplace book, and then later on that day, that week, and 6 months, when you come back into your commonplace book and you happen to come across that idea, you can begin to add more thoughts, because at that time you'll have a week, a day, 6 months, whatever it is, of more knowledge and understanding that you can apply to that specific Lego piece, right? And you can rearrange and create new things and new ideas and all that with it. A commonplace book, in my mind, is not a stagnant swamp, right? It's a flowing river, and it's always moving, it's always changing, and always flowing. It reminds me of my brother-in-law. He loves to change, so he often rearranges his living room a lot, right? Rearranging the pieces. Where do I put the couch? Can I put it over here? And the rearrangement of the living room actually allows for different types of connection, right? Whenever you place a couch and a love seat facing towards each other, you are promoting conversation. Whereas if you were to place them back to back, right? Like it's like you're sitting and you're facing opposite directions, so it does not encourage connection, right? So you can rearrange and hopefully find another purpose out of that. So rearranging ideas. And as new ideas get brought into the commonplace book, you begin to see new patterns and new arrangement. So now we're not done yet, but let's recap the 3 tips that we just went over. Number 1 is to read lots of material. And it's okay to jump from book to book and to just extract the ideas, okay? You don't have to finish a book to move on to the next one. Maybe you do, but I don't see it that way. Number 2, you want to extract the interesting and put it into your notebook. A word that you come across, a phrase, a sentence, a passage, and you want to put it in multiple places. So use your tags. If you have tags, almost every note-taking app has tags. Or if you're going to do the physical, put it in multiple places. Think of, where do I want to bump into this word, phrase, sentence? Where do I want to bump into it again? And you can put that in your notebook, in your physical notebook, or you can tag it in your digital space. Then finally, number 3, revisit what you've collected and connect more ideas. I have a whole video on bi-directional linking as well, on connecting ideas, and it explains the concept of bi-directional linking. So if you're just getting into personal knowledge management, or if you want to know more about what that looks like in my system, check out that video. I'll link it for you as well. All right, so let's move on to 3 truths about commonplace books. Again, from this quote here. Okay, here we go. Reading and writing are one activity. Their primary purpose is to help you make sense of things. I think that's what we're all after, right? Is for us to make sense of the world around us, to make sense of the things that we are thinking about, the things that we come across. So, reading and writing are one activity. When you make sense of things, your world picture gets a little bit more vivid, right? You begin to distinguish the various shades of thoughts and ideas more than you have before. So reading and writing are one activity. They're inseparable. In order for this to be effective, for you to get clarity of thought, to have increased creativity, you cannot just read. You have to write as well. So as you are reading, write. As you are writing, read. Okay? All right, and then the next one, second truth. The world is full of signs. I 1000% agree with this. The world is full of signs everywhere we look. This is mainly talking about reading books in this quote here that we're breaking down. But everywhere we look, every book that we read, the trees that we pass on our walk, the conversations at the coffee shop that we have, every day we pass signs pointing us to learn something that we didn't know before, right? To provide a perspective that we haven't thought of, and all we need to do is open our eyes to the land of ideas. They are everywhere. If we pause and look and stop for a second to notice the ideas. Number 3. This is the last truth here. He said, by keeping an account of your readings, you made a book of your own, one stamped with your personality. Now he sums it up beautifully here. I couldn't have said it better. To know that there is a resource that is stamped with you, right? I mentioned before in a previous video, like your thought print. It is your fingerprint, your mind print, right? Your intellectual print. That there is none other like it. And the things that you collect that resonate in your mind and in your heart, that sing the melody that's in your heart, that harmonize with the things that you care about. Man, to have a book, to have a place, to have a digital notes where you can go and visit that and get inspired. It is really, really cool to think about that. Your book, your Commonplace book, is wildly unique. And I think it's incredible that, if every one of us, I don't know how many people are in the world, 8 billion people, you get the idea, right? If there were, every one of us created a Commonplace book, how unique each and every one of them would be. I just want to end with that thought that you need to create one. If you're just getting into, jotting down your ideas and thoughts, this is the time to do it. Because there will be no other Commonplace book like yours. And maybe it's just for you. Maybe it's for your family. Maybe it's for a group of friends. Maybe it's for a mastermind that you're in. Or maybe you got maybe you got ideas that you want to share with other people, right? With kindred spirits, people that are aligned with what you have to say. Like you need to capture these things so that you have a place to come back to be inspired, to recharge your intellectual battery. Hey, listen, thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you are still here with me and taking the time to break down these 5 sentences, I hope that you took away at least one nugget. And if you did, let me know in the comments below. I want to hear from you and see what sparked you, what ideas that you have, and what you're going to try, whatever it is that you got away from this. And I will see you next time.